Let me go ahead and hit this record button over there.
Hello. Welcome into Fill in the Blanks. I am Tenitra Batiste. This is Jarvis Davis. And Jarvis and I are multitasking, especially because it's such a short week for the Falcons after they have a quick turnaround, of course, because they are headed to Carolina to take on the Panthers on Thursday. So in addition to us doing our weekly touch base at Fill in the Blanks, they also have to get ready for a short Falcons week, touching base with the coaches and the players as they begin today to get back to practice and doing installations. But I know you don't want to hear just about what the Falcons are doing, get ready for the Panthers. Now you want to talk a little bit about what they didn't do against the Lions.
Wow. Where do I start?
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin? Let's talk about, this is what we should be used to right now. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way. This is what we should be used to right now. And I hate that we have to get used to something like that because, like I said, you got rid of the quote unquote issue and Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn, and they got the win, got a win in the previous week. And then you're looking for trying to go onto a winning streak. Two game winning streak, and your offense is struggling, but your defense is playing well, and you're getting pressure on the quarterback, not necessarily with your front four, but you're putting pressure, sending pressure, and like I talked about last week, that they were going to have to send pressure because you can't consistently get that from your front four, and here we go in the fourth quarter, 4th and 5.
Yes.
And you decide to go for it. And you talk about how you be, and Raheem Morris, I'm talking about Raheem Morris, for those who don't know, decides to go for it on 4th and 5. And instead of putting
points on the board,
putting points on the board, being up by 4, and which means the team has to score a touchdown in order to, take the lead, especially when your offense is struggling. Like I understand, I would understand, I would totally understand if he would have went for it and they had 30 points on the board. And they've been marching all up and down the field, and they wanted to put the nail in the coffin. I get that, be aggressive, but not when you're up 14-13. The offense is sputtering, and just the play calling sequence just wasn't. It just looked like it was just off.
There was never a flow to this game. First of all, particularly to your point on offense.
That's the way to put it.
So when there's not a flow on offense, but your defense is holding Matt Stafford, DeAndre Swift, and company in check, then let them get it done. Trust them to be able to get it done. Points come at a premium, whether it's 3 or 7. And if you've been holding on to nursing a 1-point lead into the fourth quarter, you take the 3 points and you keep it moving. So that's definitely one of the critical points of miscues that made you feel like, okay, was there a regression back to 2 weeks ago? And then in another questionable call, everyone in the stadium knew what happened on the challenge to the catch, right?
Right.
And so you lose that timeout. And we know that in tight games, especially, timeouts are so critical because they really allow you to be able to strategize.
You only had 1-point lead at that time.
Exactly. And you chose to make a challenge at that critical juncture, which just about everybody knew you were going to lose. You lose it, you lose the timeout, and that is something that maybe could have given you an opportunity to take a pause and reset yourself in the waning minutes of the game. So you got those 2 points as well. And then to your point, you were calling packages that we really hadn't seen. We really hadn't seen a lot of safety blitzes this season. So you dial up some safety blitzes. They actually work fairly effectively. And then you have an opportunity to call them up just once or twice more. You don't really bring any pressure on that last drive. And a minute and 4 for a quarterback like Matt Stafford, or even if they decided to go back to DeAndre Swift and see what they could get out of him, quite possibly, because he was solid until, for whatever reason, Matt Patricia decided to go away from him. Kind of baffled us all. But to that point, Matt Stafford, a minute and 4, That's like giving him 5 minutes and 4 seconds. And then you proceed to let him march down the field, not just doing what he could do, but again, for the play calling was just questionable in the end. So we go back to the same issues, Jarvis, not the variety and the creativity that we need to see, not the taking chances at the appropriate times, the calculated risks, and then also just poor game management overall, especially in those waning minutes. So I was looking, because this was a problem with them 3 weeks ago when they played the Panthers, and could essentially rear its head again on Thursday.
Yeah,
it's the first half defense, the 2-minute defense, and the 2-minute defense again at the end of the first half, at the end of the second half. Because you and I and so many have talked about what the 2-minute offense has looked like or lack thereof. But their 2-minute defense has been suspect as well at the half and at the end of the game. And it was with the Carolina Panthers. That's how they were able to go up 20-7, drove like 89 yards in 9 plays, and a minute 11 went up 20-7. And let's just be honest. Yeah, the score was 23-16, but the Falcons never really recovered that week. And they're just looking like more of the same.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part, because like I said, you make those changes by getting rid of Thomas Dimitroff, Dan Quinn, to see some change. And to be totally honest, and I've said this before, and speaking on what has changed, the defense has changed some. I've seen some differences. I've seen some different looks, some different fronts, some different type of show blitzes. Playing a little bit more man coverage. We saw a safety blitz with Keanu Neal was being sent.
That was encouraging.
Yeah, you would think that was something that you would be doing anymore, but just to given the type of player that Keanu Neal is, and I just wanted
what you go get him for?
Right, exactly. He can play linebacker. That he's just that built like that. He's the type of guy that can be in that box and flourish and make plays. And you saw that consistently throughout the entire game. And I personally think that was probably the best we've seen Keanu Neal play since coming back from injury. And I'm encouraged by it. But like I said, I hope that whatever went through Jeff Olbricht's or Raheem Morris's mind in that last drive, I hope they just kind of just drive that out, because when you like, my whole thing is when it comes to a defensive mentality, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down how I was going down. I'm not gonna go down not just rushing forward, because that's not what has worked for me.
Right.
Especially in this game. You saw how you were able to get Matt Stafford off. He wasn't able to get into the right protection to block up those particular blitzes with Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. And getting a home on Sunday. So I can't go down doing not being aggressive. Those are the moments where you be aggressive, because he talked about how picking and choosing when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. That was a moment that you needed to be aggressive.
Yeah, and I would have to agree completely with you on that one, Jarvis. And Joseph Braxton was saying he liked the call personally. Too many times we settled for 3. The play was there, and in hindsight, it's easy to say kick the 3. I got to stop right there. And he says not making that first down is not what cost you the game, but it is a part of what cost you the game. Because again, that goes back to situational awareness and game management that was just not there. The reason we don't like the call is because it wasn't about settling for 3. It was about getting 3 versus walking away with 0. The percentage is already so low on 4th down conversions, but the 4th down conversions that the Falcons have made this season have been more like a 4th and 1, a 4th and 2, and maybe a 4th and 3, 4th and 5, unless your name is Tom Brady, 4th and 5, Drew Brees. You got the right players in the right places or Russell Wilson, who can scramble his way until a DK Metcalf gets open to convert a 4th and 5. There's the percentage, the probability is just not there. So no, I hear you, Joseph. We agree that you should be aggressive, and we like the fact that Ra is like that. But on that same token, we just think that at the end of the day, you've got to have the situational awareness to decide, is this a moment where we're going to be aggressive, or is this a moment where we'll be quote unquote conservative take the three and then to let our defense go get a stop, so that then we have an opportunity, if we want to go for 3 more or 7 more, to do just that.
And there have been a lot of cases in this season where the defense hasn't been able to get a stop, but throughout this game, you were. You were getting 3 and outs. It was a breath of fresh air to be able to see, those 3 and outs and those guys getting off the field, man, when you're supposed to. Like all those things. And let's not forget the whole Todd Gurley debacle as well. You talk about debacles and not being able to execute and not making the right decisions. Like I'm not going to bash Todd Gurley for what happened, but like all those things kind of compound each other when you talk about execution and making the right decisions in those when it's a TBS type situation. Tight booty syndrome for all people who don't know. Because it's vital for you to be able to flourish in those situations. And because you haven't in the past. Right. And when you have opportunities to do that, you have to.
Yeah. And one more thing before we kind of wrap that up, and and thank you so much, Joseph, for joining us. We appreciate you for that. The other piece there is, like you said, now this is hindsight, is kind of 2020, but kind of not, because many of us who were in the press box that day were literally looking to see, okay, this is a take a knee opportunity. Are we going to take a knee? When it's a 1st and goal and you got a minute, I think at that point it might have been like 1 minute and 11 seconds on the clock.
Right. Yep.
You can go ahead and at least take one. Can I get 1 knee? Can I get 1 knee? I mean, for real. Because if nothing else, then the play clock starts to run. And the Lions have 3 timeouts at that point. You go ahead and take that opportunity to kneel, because worst case, there's not really a worst case scenario. Let's just be honest. You're going to run the heck out of that clock at that point. And even Raheem Morris had to admit that might have been the better way to go. So, Jarvis, I know that now what's been funny, just to kind of keep, because I know we've been really talking seriously about it, because it's frustrating, because you did have a mind that maybe it was a turning of the corner, at least to maybe get you 2, if not 3 wins. Like it really looked like, you look at the 5-game stretch going into the bye, 4-1 was not inconceivable when you walked into that building on Sunday. Just not inconceivable, not saying not inconceivable. But Jarvis, I thought, okay, this is Jarvis and T. You got to remember that we like to have fun with things from time to time. It doesn't always have to be so serious. So once we got out of our, in Jarvis's case, Atlanta sports PTSD, in my case and Jarvis's case, Falcon sports reporter PTSD on Sunday.
Right.
We stepped out, and it was like literally the memes and the gifs and the posts on Instagram went. It was foolishness. It was foolishness. Man, the internet is undefeated. That's all we can say.
When you think about, like, because what we're talking about is the video that was circulating around, and I cannot play it here
because we want our job.
It's a little rough. So
we like our jobs.
Right. We probably would lose our jobs if we posted that thing on here, but we don't want to do that. And what I will do, I will post it on our Fill in the Blanks Facebook page, so you can check it out there. It got a little colorful language in there, but it was just it was so Atlanta.
It really was.
Because as soon as you hear, for me, as soon as I hear the phrase "these folks," I know exactly where they're from, and I know exactly what part of town they dwell in. And when I hear that phrase come out, and it was like, man, these folks out here tripping. And I really literally just sat there and looked at the video and looked at my wife when I'm not showing her the video. I was just like, these people got so much time on their hands. It's so much time on their hands, and I love it. Like, have a lot all the time in the world, because it was just so funny to see, because they had the post-game press conference of Raheem Morris and Todd Gurley, where they had guys voicing it over, doing a little video, like basically voiceover tracking for while those guys were doing the movements and all that stuff. So it is just absolutely hilarious. And like I said, I posted up on our Fill in the Blanks Facebook page, and y'all can check it out and let me know what you think.
And let us know what you think. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Jarvis, we got another, and it's not a big game as far as the opponent, but it's a big game as far as seeing how Georgia will bounce back and what they're going to do on offense and defense. Of course, they had the meltdown against Alabama, had a bye week, but actually Kirby Smart said they chose to practice because they just really wanted to get those reps in for as many guys as possible, not just their first stringers. However, Jarvis, former football player, last I checked, whenever a position player practices with the ones, he's probably going to start.
Yes.
Unless you're trying to pull the okie doke.
Unless you just change it up, all of a sudden. I mean, this Georgia situation it runs deep.
Exactly.
It's deeper than Stetson Bennett and Juwan Mathis. Like, it's so deep because when you think about the mindset that Kirby Smart has, essentially when you say, hey, you need to put somebody else in there because Stetson Bennett is probably not going to win you the big game. And I know, and what we're asking him is to change who he is as a coach, because he's a former defensive coordinator. He's a guy. Those guys typically make decisions to save their defense, or to conserve their defense, because he has a great defense. Jarvis, they gave up all those points against Alabama. That's Alabama.
Yeah,
they still have they can dominate regular teams.
And look,
they have a dominant.
Those are weird. Those receivers. They're like
look, the NFL. Like, we're talking about. Jalen Waddell is probably going to be the first or second wide receiver taken off the board in the spring. That. So let's keep it all the way a buck now. So just because they have a game like that doesn't mean they aren't a good defense. So they have a really good defense. So he wants a game manager in there to not put the defense in bad situations.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Kirby Smart is going to change within a week and a half.
Right.
They had the bye week, to get everything figured out, because to be honest with you, they need to make a decision at running back as well.
Sure.
It's time, like, this whole Zeus mantra, the Zeus, the second coming of whoever, or Nick Chubb or what. No, man, that is not who that guy is.
No.
He is not that dude. So you need to, it is very clear who needs to be playing on Saturdays, or getting the more consistent touches on Saturdays going forward, especially against Kentucky, because they're going to want to come out and run the football against Kentucky, and because they're not going to spread the ball all over the field and throw it all over the yard, like we were sold on when Todd Monken was brought in. So I think the deeper issue with Georgia is Kirby Smart's identity and him not being willing to change. Because I don't think there's enough time to change at this moment, because you've basically doubled down with this guy. So at this point, you gotta stick with him.
Yeah, I think the same. And it's interesting because the tight end, I think John Fitzpatrick was saying, as far as their identity is concerned, it is what it is. They are a running team at the end of the day. Now, granted, got 145 yards running back by committee. As long as you understand this is not running back you at this time, this is running back by committee, then you should be fairly okay. But also understand that there will come a time, as you saw a week and a half ago, when running back by committee plus the game manager does not equal a win. We've seen it sometimes. And look, going back to what you said, Jarvis, you make a great point about Kirby Smart. Maybe with his experiences at Alabama, where they had phenomenal defenses, they had their version of running back you, and then they had a game manager, a quarterback, and they were able to win championships. Maybe he's going back to that mantra, or maybe he, still has that mindset. But here's the thing. When Alabama had that 1-2-3 punch, they were still Alabama, and then everybody else was still, down here. So they could actually afford to do that. When Georgia has an Alabama to contend with and tries to do that same 1-2-3 punch, it's not going to work, because now you're trying to get through the team that invented the 1-2-3 punch
of
you game manager and stellar defense. And so it'll be interesting to see.
You're not gonna beat me with my own style. That's not gonna happen.
There's a reason that Nick Saban is 23-0 against his former assistants, because if you try to put his formula in place, and he invented the formula, and then he actually does have, and I'm no pun intended, he's got track stars that can run track meets out there. Okay, Mac Jones is doing his job, and Mac Jones. I love saying that. But yeah, I mean, Mac Jones is doing his job. Like Mac Jones is nobody's game manager, right?
No, not at all.
Right. So if you've got a great quarterback and you've got killer receivers and your defense is decent and your running game is still as solid as ever, then you are still the team to beat with the formula you created. And Georgia's going to have to figure that out. Like you said, Kirby Smart, you brought Todd Monken in for a reason. You need to figure out the best players on the field to be able to produce at the high level that he is expecting of the offense. If come December 19th, you expect to have a different result, assuming that you'll be representing these SEC East at that time. So switching gears, Jarvis, I thought one of these things was hilarious, but I'm going to let you go in on it first. And then I want to chime in too about one Jeff Garcia providing commentary about Cam Newton's attire.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, it's 2020, right? I know a lot of weird things have been happening and going on, and we've had to deal with some stuff that we've never seen and we probably won't see for another 100 years.
True.
In a pandemic, and just losing people, and the corona, just so much stuff we've had to deal with.
Yeah.
But you would think that people being uncomfortable with the way a black man dresses would not be one of them.
Right.
Because essentially that's what Jeff Garcia's issue was.
Oh God, yeah.
He has an issue with the way this man dresses.
Yeah.
And he's formulated in his mind that it's because Cam wants to draw attention to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about this for a notion? Maybe I like to dress. Maybe in my culture, that's what we taught to do.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because we had to put on our best clothing every time we stepped out of the house. Because we don't want to be we don't want the assumption to be out there that we're trying to deal drugs or we're criminals or we are up to no good, you know, or we walk past your car and you lock the doors and all that type of stuff. That's why, it's part of our culture to put on clothes and dress and go to church and have your best clothes. Like they call it, the show called Sunday Best that comes on BET.
Right.
Like it's your Sunday's best. You put on your Sunday's best, and that's the mentality every day for Cam. So
every day,
why? Like I just don't understand like how we don't call that out now. Like I think we're past the point of people being ignorant to this type of ridicule, and for Cam to continue to have to address this on a regular basis. He was on an interview with WEEI and he took the high road, and I respect like the way Cam is handling things right now. Like this dude is mature so much, and that's one thing that nobody is pointing out as well.
Right.
And I think it's time out. It's time out for some white dude to sit up here and talk about the way somebody dresses, and it's a negative. I don't understand that, man.
Yeah, because it's a microaggression at the end of the day.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's a microaggression.
Ignorance all day. No, man, it's time out.
Call it what it is. And if you know anything about Black culture or Atlanta culture, I tell you, he is the flyest of the fly in his own special way. And don't get me wrong, it's one of those things where I was like, well, I don't want to get caught up in the liking or dislike, but it was actually one of his outfits that I've liked for once in my life. But if you've ever met Cam, you would know that drawing attention is the last thing on his mind. I had an opportunity to interview him. Yeah, I had an opportunity to interview him a year ago, and we spoke on camera for about 4 minutes, but we spoke off camera for about another 4 or 5. And the last thing that he's interested in, that came as the evolution was coming, as he and the Panthers are trying to figure out, can we ever even put him back on the field because of his body? And you could see that evolution already taking place. So yeah, I take offense to that, because at the end of the day, it's a microaggression, Jeff Garcia. Let's not act like it's about his attire, because that's not what it was about at all. But if you want to pretend like it was about attire, allow me to go in on what the heck you had on a national broadcast.
Exactly.
Because between your attire and your facial presentation, we'll call it, I'm just wondering who co-signed on that. Who allowed you to sit at a desk with that appearance? He was just going to a game to get back on the football field and play and be focused about coming back from COVID and making an impression. You are focused on what's on the outside. I dare you to focus on what's on the inside. I dare you to look into everything that he's done off the field. And then I dare you to look at the reality of what he's trying to do on the field, and him saying, hey, I know I might be fighting for my job if I'm not careful. Right. That's what you need to be focused on as an analyst. Or if you're going to say something in jest, we all do that. I mean, we've all had a comment or two about that. But don't come at me with the strength and, dare I say, vitriol, because I'm going to then come for you and tell you that I know what that really is. And it's called microaggression. If you're unfamiliar with it, you might want to go check out the term. But we'll end on a pseudo positive note, Jarvis, because, you know, you and I are going to attempt to look at this as still the glass half full versus the glass half empty, or God forbid, about to be fully empty. So we get word that Bethune-Cookman College has tapped out for spring 2021.
Yeah.
So if you were thinking, and, you know, one of our buddies and former colleagues, Larisha Harris, is a graduate of Bethune-Cookman College. So I said, I got to check in with her and say, you know, are you okay? Because most people are still dealing with the fact that there's no homecoming this fall.
Right.
And a lot of schools, my school included, were attempting to do like a virtual homecoming this fall. And then in the spring, they were going to try to do a true to life version of a homecoming. So now your Bethune-Cookman alum have no football, no offense to the rest of the spring sports, but no football to speak of, no spring sports to speak of. Man, Jarvis, I really hope this is a one-off, especially for all that HBCU football that we were hoping to see in spring 2021.
Yeah, and they're actually the first Division I school to cancel sports in the spring. So the president was talking about how, you know, with the COVID-19 cases being up in the county, and they will have some issues on campus as well, to the point where they've quarantined about 30 students, and they're really trying to work how they're doing. You know, they have a hybrid situation as far as in class and online, and the president even threw out there the fact that there's a possibility that they may go 100% online, and when you hear stuff like that, that kind of really puts it in perspective. Like, all right, it's starting to get real down there. The one thing that I think people need to understand and remember, like a lot of the revenue that comes from HBCUs is people being in the stands. Yeah, people out there tailgating. And if you're playing in the spring, more than likely that's not going to happen. And if you do have some, it's probably going to be what, 2,000 at the most, maybe 1,000, possibly. So my whole thing is, like, as much as I hate to say this, like if it doesn't make dollars or cents for you, go ahead and sit it out. Because you know, like, I know the big schools, those PWIs, the Alabamas and Georgias, they can figure it out. They can finesse it because they have those big boy TV contracts, and they need to be able to satisfy those to be able to get their check at the end of the year, which is totally understandable. And then also, who's gonna pay for the testing? Like, where's that coming from? So, and without all of that stuff in the forefront, like they said the budget for Bethune-Cookman was $15 million.
Yeah.
So that's just regular, normal. Now let's talk about pandemic play. Playing in a pandemic. That number is probably going to at least go up 20 to 30%. So I don't see schools being able to put out that type of money to be able to function, and it's unfortunate, because we know how, like you mentioned, the homecomings and not having that, and the possibility of maybe having one in the spring,
right?
And when games are being played, but I totally understand Bethune, but like I said, I hope this is a blip on the screen and not a trend.
Yeah, absolutely, because it was something to where it was like a beacon of light, thinking about the possibility of spring sports, particularly spring football, both a beacon of light personally and professionally, individually, and collectively. We're rooting for these schools, obviously, for students to be able to be in school safely, for athletes to be on the field or on the diamond or wherever it is that they may be safely. But ultimately, we're also hoping that somehow, some way, safety can also meet a little fun, and we can see some spring football in, I don't know, March, February. Well, I think February, because some of the schedules I've seen, they literally will start in February. So it'll be interesting to see. But anyway, like we said, we hope we don't have to come back here next week and have this conversation about any one of our HBCU schools. So we thank you guys as always. Listen, you got a week. You got about 3 days to make it happen for early voting. Well, ultimately, we'll say a week because, of course, you can go back on this day next week to get out there and vote. It'll be interesting when we come back because we may have some interesting news about the possibilities of what might go on at the trade deadline for the NFL. It'll close literally just as we're starting the show. So may have some interesting conversation about that. Or if the Braves actually are making money moves with any of the free agencies that they have to make a decision on in the next day or two, including Shane Green, Mark Melanson, Darren O'Day. So follow him on Twitter at JarvisD90. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tenitra. It's right there. But, I know sometimes we got to reiterate things to our people so they can get it. And of course, you can also follow us at _fill in the blanks on Twitter and at fill in the blanks on Instagram. So be out there happy, healthy, and hopeful. But the way to do that is if you go vote. So rise up and vote. Jarvis and I have already risen up and voted, and we just want you to do the same. We'll see you next week, same place, same time. Be safe out there in them Rona streets, because guess what? Rona's still out there.
It's still out there. Google Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget that. And YouTube. Yep, we up there too.
Cosign. See ya.